A few weeks ago, I shared the legend of Coffin Road. It's the story of a tragic fire, phantom children, and the angry spirit of a hanged man. Judging by the amount of reader interaction with the post, it seems to be a very popular story in Northwest Ohio. All the likes and comments and shares helped boost the post to over 64,000 news feeds. Thank you for that, by the way. Due to the semi-viral nature of the post, it eventually appeared in the news feed of a woman we'll call Samantha, and the story prompted her to tell me one of her own. Samantha messaged the page and sent me photos of an old iron bed frame, offering, "I own a relic from the burned down orphanage in Paulding/Sherwood, Ohio. It's been my bed since I was probably 3. I'm pretty sure it's haunted with something." She then went on to list the strange phenomena that plagued her childhood every time night would descend and it was time to go to bed. Obviously, I messaged her right away. I had to know more. What she told me sent chills down my spine. What follows is a true story. I learned that, for much of her young life, Samantha hated the prospect of going to sleep. She grew to fear the idea of laying in bed at night. "I would be terrified to sleep," she said. Her earliest memories were of feeling something in the room at night with her, watching over her. It was more than just a child's natural fear of the dark. She was certain there was someone else in the room with her, but all she could ever see were the shadows that laced the corners of her dark bedroom. The strange noises didn't help matters either. "I would hear and see things that frightened me," she went on. And, like most frightened children, Samantha would often seek out the comfort of her parents. "My mom would sleep with me often, or I would sleep in their bedroom." It's not uncommon for children to go through a period of anxiety and adjustment when it comes to sleeping on their own in a dark room and away from their parents. Perhaps Samantha's parents hoped this was just one of those phases. Unfortunately, it wasn't. Whatever was going on in Samantha's bedroom only seemed to get worse. Now, in addition to feelings of being watched and hearing strange sounds that seemed to emanate from the darkness around her, something was beginning to make its presence known in other ways. I remember laying in my bed and feeling like someone sat at the end of it. I looked and no one was there. This happened pretty frequently when I was young. What was going on? More importantly, who would believe her? "No one in my family believes in the paranormal," she said, but after years of sleepless nights, Samantha began to hunt for answers. "I'm not sure when I thought it was the bed. I couldn't have been older than 10. I think I put the pieces together when my mom told me where it came from." Her parents had always dismissed her nighttime anxiety over going to bed as simply a product of her overactive imagination. The noises she was hearing were only the sounds of the house settling in, and so on. But Samantha knew different. She knew there was something ominous going on, and it wasn't all in her imagination. The nightly activity was getting so bad that Samantha had even taken to lining the edge of her bed with stuffed animals, hoping they would be enough to protect her as she slept. And then she remembered a conversation she had had with her mother. "My parents told me about the bed probably when I was between 7 to 9 years old. I'm not sure what prompted the conversation, but I was amazed at the history. My mom is the only one that discussed it with me. She told me where it came from and how she acquired it, but it never went beyond that." Many years ago, Samantha's mother had stopped by a local flea market in search of bargain deals when she came across a lady selling several dozen antique-looking bed frames. They came from the old Eaton orphanage out on Coffin Road. With a little paint and polish, they could look good as new. And at the price listed, she just couldn't pass up bringing one home for little Samantha. It was the bed, Samantha knew now. The bed had something attached to it, something that refused to cross over, something that seemed to enjoy visiting Samantha whenever the sun went down. It was the only answer that made sense, but knowing the source of her troubles didn't bring any measure of peace. It got to the point where I had to start taking PM pills at the age of 11 to sleep, she admitted. And despite the medication and stuffed animals lined up to protect her in the night, the activity only seemed to intensify. I would always hear people walking and thought someone broke into the house. And then, whatever it was, began to speak. It was very distinct. It was two men talking, and they had very deep voices. I was mortified. I told my mom there were two men downstairs chatting, to which she replied, "No, there's not. It's just voices in your head. Go back to bed." One night, the activity became so bad that she couldn't help but run for the safety of her parents' bedroom. The voices, noises, and weird sensations became too much to bear. Naturally, she was met with some very fed-up parents who had had enough with being awakened in the middle of the night with wild stories of phantom visitors. Samantha knew she had no choice but to find a way to deal with this on her own. She steeled herself and became determined not to let whatever was going on scare her anymore. From that night forward, she would learn to ignore the activity, repeating to herself that none of it was real and was all in her head. It seemed to work for a while, but only just for a while. Whatever it was that lurked in her bedroom, that seemed to be attached to the old bed frame, apparently didn't appreciate being ignored. In the past, Samantha had experienced the feeling of being touched while she lay in bed. It didn't happen too often, but when it did, it would just feel as if something brushed across her skin ever so lightly. This time, though, the sensation was anything but gentle. I was probably 15 or 16 when I felt I was being strangled, she began. I was laying down and felt something around my neck. I tried to get up, but I couldn't. Something was holding me down. The more I tried to get up, the more I couldn't breathe. I tried to hit the wall with my hand to wake up my sister, but I couldn't. Then it just went away. I don't think I told anyone about that because they would think I'm crazy. That was the last major experience Samantha had while sleeping in this bed. She is 21 now and sleeps peacefully in a completely different, non-haunted bed. But that old bed? The one from Coffin Road. It's still in her parents' house, in the guest bedroom. Would you chance spending a night in it?